Very good. Yes, sir.
In a world of intolerance, where people are willing to kill if you don't follow their religion, how does Buddhism respond to this?
Yes. Very good. One last question, then I'll start. One more question, please. Yes, sir.
Does Buddha or Buddhism believe in a superhuman being existing on Earth, or have all human beings that have existed on Earth been, in fact, human beings, all people from the past? Do we all have those capabilities?
Very good. I'll start with these 5 questions, and then it will be open for you to ask further questions as my presentation will lead to. I'm at any time prepared to be interrupted. If the words I use, which are English rather than American English, or you have problems with my pronunciation, put your hand up and I'll take this as a class. I allow my students to interrupt, and I often tell them, if you interrupt me in the beginning of a sentence, I'll answer your question and continue the sentence. Now, so I'd like to answer your question first. What does enlightenment mean in the current world today? To the Buddha, enlightenment was the end of our process of suffering. Buddhism begins by saying that everything that happens to you in life had originated as a result of not being enlightened. The Buddha presented 12 steps what is called dependent causation. And the first of them is avijja, which means not knowing, or ignorance. So, ignorance causes mental formations. Mental formations lead to feelings. Feelings lead to that, so on. There are 12 steps by which the Buddha shows that how we get to a point where that we depend on our sense faculties, and these sense faculties, the way we react to them, develop within us attachment. This attachment leads to craving, and with the craving, all the other complications, disappointments and lamentation and suffering, all this begin. So, if the purpose of enlightenment is to end suffering, we look for the cause of suffering. The cause of suffering is our excessive desire, our inability to contain our needs to a level which is permissible with the kind of resources that are available, with the situations in which we are. So the Buddha said, he's summarizing his entire philosophy, I teach you the middle path. And the middle path means not too much of this, not too much of the other. Not an austere life, where in which you sacrifice everything, go to a forest, and if one wants to decide to do that, yes, it can. But excessive mortification of yourself, austerity, is condemned by the Buddha. So is the attachment to luxury. So understanding this need to be in between the two, adapting the middle path, adapting us in whatever you do, whether it is the way you think, the way you speak, the way you do things, that the via media is the most important way to approach life, is to deal with your craving. And the craving begins in that 12-step dependent causation called in Pali paticca samuppada, is ignorance. So how can we control our ignorance? How can we understand the reality of life? Understanding things like what we do to climate change, how we deplete the resources that cannot be revived or replaced. All these are aspects of Buddhism. So today, if you are a Buddhist in the modern world, you tell yourself, am I following the middle path? Am I grabbing other people's resources for my comfort? Am I interfering with the lives of other people so that I have my own way? Avoiding all that is the enlightenment, which will lead you step by step to the control of this excessive desire. All evil in the world, according to the Buddha, arise because of three reasons: greed, hatred, stupidity. Let us take anything that has happened within the last 10 years in any society. You can say there is greed, there is hatred, there is stupidity causing this. Ability to contain stupidity, to think and say, what I think is not the ultimate truth. What I think is not necessarily what everybody should believe. What I think is not the way that the whole world, understanding that overcoming stupidity is the enlightenment that we need today. So, the way when people ask me, what is enlightenment for the next life? I can tell you the exact process by which the Buddha trained through a monastic life and a very high discipline, how the Buddha took you to the point where you reach that level of understanding, that level of enlightenment, as we say, when you attain the end of suffering, to which we equate nirvana. But you very kindly asked me the question, what does enlightenment mean today to us? Overcoming stupidity, overcoming greed, overcoming hatred, and understanding that excessive greed, excessive desire, insatiable craving is the cause of suffering to yourself as well as to others. To the Buddha, suffering was defined in 8 different ways. Buddha said, there are 4 factors which are physical, which none of us can overcome. He started by saying the birth itself is suffering. When I was about 10 years, I went and told the high priest at the temple, how can that be? My mother said that she was very happy when I was born, and you say that birth is suffering. And the Buddhist monk, maybe he thought that the answer that he could give to a 10-year-old, and I won't give that as an answer to you. He said, did your mother say how loudly she cried? So that was his explanation that birth can be suffering. Sickness is suffering. Old age is suffering. Look at me. At age when I had to hold the graves to come down. It's suffering. Those days I used to run up 2 steps at a time, 3 steps at a time. So that is suffering. Death certainly is suffering. Association with the unpleasant, whether it is environment or human environment, association with the unpleasant is suffering. Separation from the beloved, separation with something that you like is suffering. You desire something and you do not get it. That is suffering. And it is that all forms of desire is suffering. So that is how a Buddhist will look upon the question of enlightenment, knowledge, understanding, death.